Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's around. Say hi, Mark! He left already. And this is Smokey, Steve, and Mark. Welcome or welcome back and happy Friday. TGIF indeed. So, it's been a week here. I'm sure you've had your own adventures, challenges, anecdotes, and spoils of the time. I certainly did my own. So tonight we're going to do kind of a review, kind of a try it. It's a stable try it, and try it. But I want to talk about the experience I had using Carvana, Carvana.com. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with Carvana.com, they're one of well-known things is the car vending machines. Not something I had seen before. And it's a relatively young company. Carvana's out of Phoenix, Arizona. It was in the Forbes 500, and it's, I think, the youngest or one of the youngest companies that was doing that. So it's kind of a good thing. It's one of the top best sellers of used cars in at least the United States. So there's a kitty cat. I have a kitty cat. Hello. So he hasn't been in the car yet. So we found ourselves suddenly needing a car. Mark had gotten into an accident. We had a Rob, like a little mini SUV, and it ended up being totaled. So our insurance settlement was pretty decent for how old that car was and for the condition it was in. So that left us having enough money to pay off the loan, what was left of the loan on that car, and then to have some money to do some car shopping. So I didn't know what to do. And for the sake of a full disclosure, my credit score is not 800, and neither is Mark's. So we had some limits and we had some boundaries and some challenges as to trying to find something. Now we had enough money from the insurance that we could have got like a used junker, not junker, but like something probably 10 years old with 200,000 miles on it and paid full and had no car payment. It's an option. I've always had older cars and I've always had transportation insecurity. So we bought something newer than that and something different. So in search of car hunting, I went online and I Googled car lots or whatever. And the first thing that comes up, sponsored ad, is Carvana.com. Now I knew next to nothing about it, but I thought, oh, fun. So I went to their website and it looked pretty easy to use. They have an app, which I have now too, and started just doing some sleuthing to see what kind of car I could find, what kind of deals I could find, how the whole thing worked. I didn't know how financing was going to work. Again, with credit and whatnot being a consideration, I thought we might have to go with the junker if no one will float us money. So onto Carvana, started searching. Now, if you can give them an idea of how much you can put down, if any, and how much you can pay a month, they'll give you a list of cars that are within that area. Now, as far as putting anything down a month, it would be zero normally, but for the distance away the car is from the person who's buying it, there may be travel transportation fees to get it from one place to another. And they vary anywhere from $300 to $1,900. That money gets wrapped into the cost of the car, but still it's a little bit extra. So when searching, we found some car lots locally through Carvana. It kind of reminded me of like Uber Eats. Like these cars were already on a lot somewhere. It was just that I found them through Carvana and then came that way. The car we ended up getting was actually from New Jersey. So we only had a little bit of shipping to pay for it. It wasn't too bad. Oh, kitty. Kitty. Oh, kitty. So I went online, I did some of the sleuthing, and it says 78% of individuals who apply are approved for financing. I can vouch they approve a lot of people for financing. I was. The interest rate is not low. But for someone in our situation who needed transportation on short notice and didn't have a mint to do it, it was an option that worked out for us. So I went into their search engine and I put in the amount of money that we had left over from the settlement from the accident and about roughly what we were paying for the last car. My goal was not to pay more. I didn't want to have a $400 or $500 car payment, especially on a car that's still used. So didn't really go too far into that. Started looking at cars that I thought we could afford first. Now I can't drive a stick, so there went the cheapest. I thought I almost accidentally bought a manual when I purchased this one until I read the things a little more closely. So put in the information online and really didn't talk to anybody. Going through the whole experience from the time I created an account with them to the time the car arrived, I spoke to one person, and it was the guy who dropped the car off. And that was it. Every other bit of communication was done online. Now, this being, 2024, you can actually do this stuff a lot easier. I remember buying a car back in the day. It was like worse than the student loan applications. You need photocopies and faxes and mailing and all that stuff. Carvana keeps up with the times. So when they needed a copy of my license, I simply took a picture of it and handed it and sent it to them. And it was adequate. I needed to have proof of insurance. Had that. Needed to get proof of registration. And because the car I bought came from New Jersey into Pennsylvania, it had to be inspected when it got here. So it wouldn't have counted anything it had before. So I was like, well, that's whatever. That's fine. I can live with that. It's good to get the car seen if it's new to us anyway, even if it's not new. So put in the amount of money, put in the amount we could spend, was approved for financing, and did some car shopping. And the cars that were coming out in our price range, spit back, were mostly hatchback, maybe a Subaru Outback kind of thing. And I was looking for a car that had lower mileage. And even though they're used cars, you can search by mileage. They break down all the search functions on their page to what kind of transmission do you want to have in the car, what kind of color, how many years old, what's your payment range, what will you pay for it. So they ask enough specific questions to get you down to right about where the price is going to be. And the price they quoted was the price it was. They make claims that there's no faulty, formulas, there's no bad deals that they cut, they don't take advantage of anything, whatever. But it all seemed to actually come out pretty on the up and up, no secret fees. So I got the total of what we owed. We went through probably 3 days of paperwork back and forth, to be honest. It was a lot of middle of the day, my phone would zing and it would be like, we need a copy of your, I don't know. It seemed like they wanted blood and urine and all sorts of other things. But I would have to stop. But again, take a picture of it, scan it, and send it to them over my phone. So I'm not having to stop and find a scanner or a fax machine at a 7-Eleven, because who the hell has a scanner anymore? So all that stuff was pretty seamless. I really did enjoy setting it up in that way. Then we waited for the car to come. All the stuff went through. The payment we got was the same. And it was funded through Carvana, through one of the probably online banks they work with, the kind that'll probably approve anybody for funding, and pay through them. So I can pay, it can come right out of the checking. You can pay by debit card if you want to, through an affiliate of theirs, Bridgecrest, where you pay a small fee. Other payment types are like that. Like for our utilities, Pennsylvania Power and Light, it's the same sort of thing. You can have it hooked up to your checking, or you can pay off your debit card, which I tend to pay off my debit card because I don't like anyone with open access to my checking account. So I have to say that for the whole experience, would I do it again? Would I not? Well, we did come out of it with a nice new car. New to us car. The process of them getting it here was pretty easy. They transported it. They stopped outside on a flatbed, dropped the car off, talked with the guy briefly, signed some paperwork, showed him my license, and that was it. The tags were already on it when I got it, so I didn't have to go hunting for any of that kind of thing. And handed me the keys, and that was it. So I spoke to nobody except him. And post-COVID, I've developed areas of my life where I prefer to be a little more antisocial and do things via telecommunication. And I found out as going through, I didn't want to traipse around car lots. I didn't want to go do, any of that stuff. It was 300 degrees in the shade when Mark and I went during COVID to go buy the last car we had. So I didn't want a lot of fuss. I didn't want a lot of this or that. And wanted to have a car that had some modern features. Like I didn't want to drive a wheelbarrow, but I had to be within reason. Am I going to get the car with the extra super duper heated seats and the sky roof and all this and the other one? No. So I kind of just took, as long as it was an automatic transmission. This one's a continuous variable transmission. So it's not like you put your foot down and you get, it just continues to accelerate forward, which was, I've probably driven plenty of cars with that. But because I was aware of it, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I have to get used to it. It was fine. There's nothing to get used to. Really. The car itself came in the condition they said it would be in. They identified on their website for all the vehicles small flaws, things that you might see, a crack, a scrape, that kind of thing. So there's no one's trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We purchased a car that's white, and it actually is white, not covered in scratches, not yellow. So we're going to hopefully take very good care of it. So the overall experience I had was favorable, I would say, with Carvana. If you found yourself in a position where you needed to get a used car, your credit was not incredible, you had to do it on relatively short notice, and you had pretty much yourself to rely on and your own resources. You can find a reasonable deal for a vehicle that is not going to fall apart, that is not going to hopefully have 300,000 miles on it. When I was searching for cars, they'd be like $5,000 or $6,000 for a hoopty Kia with 250,000 miles on it. I'm like, man, price of everything is going up. You wouldn't think the used car lots would be price gouging, but there you are, you see. So the other feature that came, now this is the car I ended up picking. How did I pick the car we have? It was among others, I got alerts regularly from Carvana. The cars that you match that are in this range, here's what's available. Or the car you were watching, somebody else just bought it. So or someone else just put it on hold. So if you want to buy it, you got to go in now and do it. So they get their own sort of low-key, high-pressure sales, even though there's no real salesperson right there, which seems to work. And so this came to us as one of the style, price, and locations that I had seen, and it all worked out. So we got a little 2016 Nissan Versa Note hatchback. Reminds me of my first car. My first car was a Plymouth Horizon hatchback, baby blue. Same kind Son of Sam drove, apparently. And that car didn't owe me a dime. Even at 10 years old, that car was solid. It was a tank for how little it was. And it still got 30-some miles a gallon for how old. It was an 89, and it didn't die until about 2005. So this is like the son of Hoopty. And we'll see how this one goes. 60,000 miles, which for the kind of mileage I usually get on cars was low, but the trade-off would have been higher mileage, nicer car, more amenities. But I made one of those practical grown-up decisions and let's live a little below our means and get something that's not, we don't have dogs, we don't have kids. So we don't need a whole ton of space. We also aren't overflowing with money, so something good on gas would be helpful. And something that's not so old that it's going to be dead. This is the first car I've ever had that was less than 10 years old. Ever. So that was the process. We ended up with a vehicle. And I have to say, out of how many thumbs up out of 5? I would say I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 thumbs up. So why is it a perfect score? Because we ended up with a car that, for me, feels perfect by the end of it. I like the price that we're paying. It's reasonable to me. The terms of the loan are reasonable. The price, the amount it would cost to get it here, the amount to insure the car, all the stuff is under my name for this one. So the car and the insurance and its registration, it's all under me. And then Mark is a co-insured person, so he can drive the vehicle too. So we've set ourselves up pretty well, and Carvana was a big part of that, especially on short notice. I was worried. You try to think you're going to be resilient in hard times. What do you do? And as I started to go through Carvana, I thought, I'm going to get screwed on the price because they take advantage of desperate broke people who will pay a 30% interest rate. And maybe in some level that's true. But in the circumstances I was in, for the kind of consumer I was, it worked out. So absolutely 5 stars out of 5. And we got a new car. And so that is the story of the new wheels, how we got them, and the business that we went through to secure it. Again, very happy, very, very happy with how it went. If you've had a similar experience, share below. If you've had a different experience, it's also worth hearing about, share below. But definitely, I would recommend at least considering it as an option if you're in the market for a relatively inexpensive used car. I think it's a great resource. So thank you all for joining me today, and thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with our contact info in the description. thanks, and we'll catch up with you very soon. The weekend is upon us, so here's hoping. Get some rest, sleep in a little bit, look after yourselves, look after each other, and we'll catch up with you soon, okay? Bye. Say goodbye, Mark. He left again. Bye.